Hey. Well, thanks. That was a great introduction. It's a pleasure to be back here. Thanks for having us again. Always appreciate you. So on this, the first slide here, hi, I'm Mike. And I put my QR code and my LinkedIn up there. And the reason I put two pictures is because I grew my hair out. And if you went to anything that's been online for me for a while, you might go, oh, that's not the guy. That's the guy with the weird long hair. So maybe just by show of hands, who likes the new longer hair? I mean, just kind of loosely speaking. Okay, all right. You're very kind. I appreciate you. So she gave us a great introduction about what CAXI is all about. And for 20 years, and this will tie into the talk a lot too, the company's been all about delivering delivering technology to businesses in a way that it can help the business grow. Oh, hey there. Can grow and develop and advance their own business goals. And that's changed a lot. So when it started, what we did was very different from what we do now, but the principle is the same, is that we're looking for an actual business problem that we can solve with technology. So when it started, it may have been, as I'll get into, hand coding HTML. Has anyone ever done anything in Notepad with just like, typing out the code, no help, thank you, yes? That's how we started. And now it's, we've evolved and we do lots of different things, but that principle remains the same. So I want to start with an idea. A lot of what I'm talking about today is the value of being a software developer isn't about the code, it's about some other things. And so by show of hands, does anyone know who Vasily Arkhipov was? Is that a name anyone knows? Vasily Arkhipov. Maybe like 8th grade history, perhaps, something like that, US history. So this is the guy, I don't know if you recall, everyone know about the Cuban Missile Crisis? Aware of that? Okay, good. So when that happened, there was a lot of tension around the world. And what culminated in a peaceful resolution started not so peacefully. And it got to a point where the US, so if you don't know the story, briefly, Russia had missiles in Cuba, the US didn't like it, and so we decided to try to figure out how to do something about that. And it got to a point where we were actually, there was a risk that there might be like an actual nuclear war. And so what happened was the US was dropping these depth charges above the water because they could tell that there's submarines in there, that there's a problem. And that is apparently, it doesn't seem like it to me, that's the universal signal to please come up. Like, we see you, you're there, come on up, right? But underneath in the sub, the Russians have been under there for a couple weeks. It's hot, they're running low on food, all this kind of stuff. And the captain says, I think there's an actual war going on. We actually need to launch our special weapon. And they had a nuclear missile in the sub. But by the rules of their submarine, they all three had to agree unanimously. The captain, the second in command, and the third in command. And the second in command was saying, guys, I know if we followed like our playbook, our rule book, and I'm gonna insert the idea of our code, right? Here's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to launch the missiles, right? But I have a feeling that this isn't the right thing to do. I think we should surface. I'm going to use my judgment. I'm projecting here my little movie version of this. I think we should surface and actually, let's find out what's going on and, kind of leave our standard operating procedures and come up. And it turned out to be the right thing to do. There wasn't a nuclear war. We're all here because of that. On the other side, on the American side, Kennedy was delivered this sort of initial request by the Russians that was kind of firm but neutral and said, if don't invade and we'll get rid of the missiles. And then a second one showed up that was like, and get rid of the missiles in Turkey too. And what he ended up doing, he took this famous 13 days, took his time, used his judgment to say, and actually, I'm only going to respond to the first one in public. And then what I'm going to say is, yes, we won't invade. You'll get rid of the missiles. It's fine. And then he back-channeled the Khrushchev and said, and P.S. will also get rid of the ones in Turkey, but we're not going to publicize that. So the whole point here is that the value of people are making these judgment calls when maybe the rule book says, and again the code says, to do something else. And I think that's, when we think about the challenge, the specter in our worlds right now is, and I hear kind of students ask me this a lot, is, our developer job's done. Like I read a lot of Reddit to try to keep caught up, and there's a lot of, it's over, they're going to get rid of the low-level jobs. And I think the argument is maybe some, maybe not. And that's kind of a lot of what I want to talk about tonight. All right, so show of hands, and I forgot my presenter mode, so I'm just going to wing this. We're going to talk about kind of things you'd be comfortable doing with AI. And so who here is totally willing to take a recommendation from an Amazon you may also like? Oh, that's a no. Okay. So for me, I'm like, they catch me on the way out all the time. I do a lot of Instacart. I think a good sign of my age is when I type in my phone, I type Insta. The first thing that shows up is Instacart and not Instagram, so that's kind of maybe sad for me. But on my way out of Instacart, they have a great UI. Like, hey, by the way, we almost always buy more, honestly, more Coke Zero, which I know I need to stop. But like, it always reminds me about that, right? All right. So then next up, who here has ever been in any sort of self-driving vehicle while you're driving, or maybe like cruise control, right? Do you feel comfortable with it? I feel moderately comfortable. How would you feel? How would you feel today driving next to a 50-ton driverless semi-truck? Maybe a little more uneasy, right? I know kind of first world problem. I have a Tesla, and when it first came out with the self-driving, I noticed that if in really bright sunlight on like on a snowy day, so white, and I drove by a big panel truck, like a white semi, my car would start to interpret that the lane was wider than it was, and it would just start to drift over there. And I had to rescue myself a number of times, and including one time, if you can picture yourself going down the highway and there's like an oasis, right? There's like a gas station, McDonald's, whatever. My car just decided, oh, that's the road, and took an exit ramp at 80 miles an hour off onto the thing. So these are things, again, can code do this stuff or not? So another one is, think about, have you ever heard about robotic surgery, right? So robotic surgery, pretty successful thing. Would you feel comfortable in an operating room with a Da Vinci robot and no surgical team? A little uneasy, right? I looked up, don't do this. Don't go look up times that doctors had to intervene in Da Vinci surgeries, because examples are kind of terrifying, right? So they tried a couple things, and something goes wrong. And again, I think if I kind of preview some of the things we're going to talk about later, when you think about the advantage of the human mind is sort of dealing with unexpected things. So when you've got a patient on the surgery table, something could go wrong. The person could have an undisclosed other ailment, or you get in there and there's something new. Like that's currently difficult for AI to deal with. And then so maybe if this is a spectrum, the last one is like a lot of us are on planes, and I think I learned recently that when you're on a plane and it's flying, most of the time you're on autopilot. The pilot gets you up in the air, and then they don't go snooze or whatever, but or maybe they don't. I don't know if there are any pilots to correct me. But when it's time to land, the guy lands the plane. I don't think anyone would be comfortable. Is anyone comfortable being on an completely AI plane right now? I saw a great comment. I mean, like, I'm kind of schadenfreude or whatever, but like, I like my planes right side up, which has been a problem lately. I'm about to be on a plane, is it tomorrow or Friday? I'm a little more nervous than usual. Do I want to see a pilot? I definitely want to see a pilot in there. So I think like the story is like, where does the human value kind of take over? Okay, so talked about some of these problems more in depth. And when I get into this last example, at least I have found, and actually I'm glad some of the team is here in the front, I have found that a lot of the AI-assisted tools, and this is a lot of what we've talked about last time I was here, some of the other talks I've given are really around like how can we use this as a tool. And some students at other unnamed colleges, I won't bring up the names, are really into like, this is our first go-to. We start here because AI is the future. And I saw an article again on Reddit recently that was that we're creating a generation of illiterate developers, people that aren't really paying attention to what stuff actually does and means. And so when I've used for myself, when I've used these tools, it's been really good at like short, like a 20, 30 line script, or how do I do this, or a syntax reminder. But I'll show you in a little bit. I was in a loop today with one of them. I was just trying something, and I kept getting an error, and it said, oh, you're right. Do this, and it'll be fine. Do it again. Oh, you're right. Let me try this other thing. And I got in this endless loop, and I sort of got back to the original error, and I realized I was going to be in that loop kind of forever. And so, again, tools aren't ready yet to do something larger. And my team in the front row here, like we struggled to have really larger applications to do that. And I think really, when you think about a valuable application, it isn't a 18-line script. It's a many, it could be a 1,000,000-line, 1,000-file, blah, 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 something like that. And that's where I think these things struggle. And I always think about, if I were let's go back to Amazon. Let's say I'm Jeff Bezos, And or who's the guy who said all the low-level jobs are going to go away? Is it Zuckerberg? It wasn't Zuckerberg. Whoever it was. People have heard this quote. If I had a platform completely designed by AI and something went wrong, who do I call? Because the risk of that kind of endless error fix loop seems pretty high. Like that's something I would feel nervous about that. So again, sort of assisted, whether it's the plane analogy where I've got a pilot flying with autopilot sometimes, but then they take over the surgery kind of theater, that kind of stuff. That seems like the right mix to me. And so I brought up this example. Does anyone know what this picture is? What it represents? So this is, as of I think last year, this is one of the turns that Tesla can't figure out. And can anyone pick? Has anyone been on one of these? I think they call it the term of art is it's an unprotected 4-lane turn or something like that. I think unprotected is one of the things. So I'm trying to make sure I'm on the mic still. So imagine you were on that street across the way, and you had to wait for traffic to clear here and enough room for you to get out and then go left again. And this is one of those things that I don't know if I would have predicted. This is a really hard AI challenge, but it is. And every time they try it, it's either too aggressive, not aggressive enough. It's funny, when I saw this the first time, I ended up in Florida. Has anyone driven in Florida? You've been there a lot. It's a different set of rules down there. No one pays attention to anything. You're on a 50-mile-an-hour highway, and people are going 97 on the shoulder with a pickup. So the idea, there's a lot of variables, right? When you think about, and I meant to do this at the beginning. How many people here are like coders in the program, like doing software engineering? Is that okay? And then other disciplines are things like what product management, design, other things like that, right? Right. Okay. So like some of these are these are thought experiments, right? So maybe even like thinking, I'll throw. I have some swag to throw. So audience participation is going to get a hat right now. So like, where would you start? Like, what's the first problem to solve? Probably. Anyone have an idea? I don't know if we're going to solve tonight. Where would you start? Who has an idea? Where would you go?
Checking oncoming traffic on the opposite lane.
Oh, the opposite. Okay, sure. So you're waiting for a window, right? You're probably calculating how fast they're going, how fast I can accelerate. Are there pedestrians, all that kind of stuff, right? I don't know. What would you do next? What's the next thing to go? Oh, you get a hat too. Hold on. Do we have insurance for the event? I think I can get it. I get it. Ready? You ready?
Ready?
Here we go. Oh! All right. Very close. What would a next step? If you're design thinking, what's the next thing to do? You're looking for oncoming traffic. What do you do? Oh.
Find the yellow line that divides the street.
Ooh, find the yellow line. That's funny. I remember when I first got my car, before self-driving came along, I thought to myself, are they going to have to put like magnetic strips down the highway? And like, no, it's all visual stuff, right? So it's all these successive things. Oh, and hat. But may I throw it? You all right? That's a better throw. I got the wrist. now. Okay. So it's a hard problem, right? And so part of the job here is software development, and how do we? Because also, by the way, the car it's a phone. You plug it in, it charges up, it gets software update, all that kind of stuff. So it's solving that, the movement problem where I am in space, but also I've got a drivetrain and wheels and all this kind of telemetry kind of stuff. So in my estimation here, there are a lot of really interesting problems to solve, and we're kind of slowly getting rid of the less interesting ones. So my whole point today is that like these, I've been doing this for this is my 25th year being in software, and I feel like planning for a lot of what we talk about is how do we stay relevant, right? So when I started, we're doing Notepad websites, then that gets gobbled up by there's a time when, time before content management systems or time before Wix, where, something you do on Wix today in, 4 minutes used to be a month-long expensive project 20 years ago. And so, we always have to stay up with the relevant stuff. So I don't think this isn't a job that's going away today. Somewhere in the future, I think that, the AI tools are going to be able to do what we do a lot of today, and we'll be able to do something better. All right, so this is the comment that sort of started my idea for this talk. And when we look at people, coming out of school, we do a lot of code testing. So if you come and apply for a job with us, you're going to do a couple of challenges, which I think kind of gets a bad rap in the industry. That's like, these stupid leak code things, and what do they even do? But like, you'd be surprised how many people don't actually know how to start something from scratch and do it without the aid of a code tool or ChatGPT or something like that. So the conventional idea out there in the world that you guys are kind of up against is, can you really do it? And are we creating people that don't know the code? And this idea that AI is going to place low-level jobs, I guess it kind of will a little bit. But one of the things we'll talk about as we go through this today is there are probably jobs you don't want anymore. Because in a way, like once you know something could be done and automated, it feels terrible to do it. So it's like if you've ever automated a task for yourself, if you go back to do it the old way, like, I know there's a better way, and so the idea is that once there's a better way, why would we ever do it that way again? And let's stay, we are humans, we are above the AI, we can, we have more interesting things to do. That's my point. All right, so let's look at where some of these coding systems have had a lot of success doing better in kind of these higher level things. And the first one always comes to mind, I feel like, is chess. And if you follow the evolution of that, when the first, I think it was Deep Blue that did the first against Kasparov, I think did he lose, or maybe he won 4-3, and then the second time it won 3-4, and then that was the last time anyone had a shot. And so you think to yourself, well, maybe that's a real advantage, right? But then when you look at what chess is, and I found this cool thing. Who fancies himself a decent chess opening person? I had a feeling you might be the guy. All right, hold on. Can I touch this? Does that do it now? That's the screen. Maybe it's this one. So I think this is cool. All right. So, all right. So this site visualizes what a chess computer is doing. So, and I don't know, like, Rook 5 to whatever, so explain to me in like the dumbest possible way. What's your opener? What do you want me to do? Which one?
Above the star.
Okay.
Move it 2 squares up.
There we go. All right. So, again, visually, can we see the little lines? Oh, we can't see the little lines.
It showed it for a second.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh, but because it moved already. Okay, what's your second move?
The triangle, black triangle, diagonal 3 squares.
This one? Left or right?
Up 3, right 3.
Over here? Oh, you guys got to go there, right?
Yeah, one more to the right.
Oh, that's. Oh, see,
Yeah.
That's someone who knows what the actual pieces are. I thought that was the knight. All right, so there we go. So visualizing some ideas, right? I'll do one more just for fun. Where would I go next?
Sure. Let's bring out that knight. Black quarter circle.
Okay.
Up 2, left 1.
Okay. All right, so the whole point here is, so chess is an interesting problem, but it's a closed system, right? And so, in a way, all chess are the 200 million moves, which sounds like a lot, or whatever it is, but it's a definable space. Things can only go here. They can only go in whole increments of full spaces, and even though I don't know, I couldn't figure out where the pieces were, this one can only do this, and this one can only do that. And so it's kind of a solvable problem in a way, right? And so when we think about like these finite problems versus infinite problems, in a way, in retrospect, well, of course, chess is a good one to solve. And I've seen some of the other game kind of engine kind of simulators try to beat these. And one of the ones I used to play a lot. Anyone, any StarCraft fans? I feel like okay. So I feel like there was an engine that tried to do that, and it kind of struggled, right? Because it's like it's kind of infinitely weird kind of combinations of things, and it didn't do great. And so I think, again, trying to think of like where you're, a lot of what, and I got this from Matt earlier, credit to Matt earlier, about like the idea is there's a point at which you're making kind of a choice about where the AI can help you up to a point and where you need to break off and take it yourself. And so again, this is like, think about, are these problems, because in a way, like when we think about the things that we kind of wouldn't mind AI or kind of computers doing. It's any of the stuff that's like, it's kind of straightforward. Like if it's a straightforward, if you can describe every step of it, or in chess, you can just describe, well, here's how this works. And you hear the available moves, and you do this until the king can't do anything, and that's the end. Like it's a definable space. All right, and now I'm on the website. Hold on. And that's not it, and that's not it, and that's not it. Maybe it's over here. There we go. Oh, it's in PowerPoint. I got you. Got it. Current slide. Okay, got it. All right. So, so things that we think that it's pretty good at, and this actually happened today. Oh, this is kind of fun. So we were doing something today that had prehistoric code in it, and the problem was this shouldn't happen, but it was on us. We weren't responsible for it. We were just helping somebody out. And it was a server that was a million things out of date on a language that was a million things out of date. And the solution that we came up with was in kind of a little bit more modern situation. Worked locally, put it up on the site, broke. And it's like, oh, I wonder what the problem is. And it's like, oh, this is this really old version. So instead of actually like thinking about it, like, oh, let's see what ChatGPT can do with this. So we gave it the, it wasn't a lot, maybe 30, 40 lines. Hey, convert this to this old thing. Boom, done. Close case. That's a really easy, that's a really great straightforward job for this. It's been a while, like I don't really do anything for clients per se, but when I'm tinkering around, it's a great way to get a starter. And then I was doing a little project for myself, and this is that loop I was telling you about. And what I love about a lot of the kind of GPTs and LLMs is, in a way, they're kind of cheery. Do people find that? They're kind of positive, like they're go-getters, and great idea, Mike. Let me tell you more about that. Well, so he got me in this loop that was it clearly didn't know how to do it. And what I found is, if it's a really, really well-documented piece of technology, it's pretty okay at it. But I was goofing around with something involving the HubSpot API, which is like a CRM. And there's parts of it that aren't that well documented, and it got stuck where I got stuck. And so it's sort of that's where, again, humans still have some interesting value there. And when I think about, that's why you don't want to start there, because it only knows as much as it's been able to gather and kind of take an average of. And I had this idea a while ago. Anyone watch Family Feud? Any Family Feud fans? So think about the science behind Family Feud. It's not what's the right answer. Is if we called 100 random people, what did they say the answer was, right? And so in a way, like an LLM is like, well, here's what I found. I don't know if it's right, but like everyone seems to say this, and so the whole hallucination thing. One of my little history examples I was looking up earlier, it just invented a problem that actually wasn't right. Like it got the person and the war wrong. So I'm glad I double checked, because I would have been a fool up here talking about not Vasily but someone else, because I got it wrong. So those, again, knowing the limitations. And I think the reason I say this now is I see a few here with some gray. I appreciate you. Who may have been around for a while. Also, Chess, thank you with the gray. But if you're new to this, maybe you don't know that, like, that's maybe not a good place to start. So that's part of my kind of word to the wise. So what are we good at? We're good at, and I should have been able to read this. So it's the judgment. Like, what do we put into this? Architecture. How does this all work together? And in a way, crucially, if people are anyone do any kind of startup work or get involved with like new starting things, the original idea. That's what we're good at, right? And we're good at shepherding that and like keeping like a focus on that we're trying to build this new thing. That's what we're good at. And if you think about, I was thinking about like, what are the cases where like it's a real problem, where we started with who'd get on an AI plane flown by AI. Whenever there's like a serious personal outcome, like would you hand over your, and people do investing, would you hand over your brokerage account to an AI and say, you just run with it, baby, I don't care. The chances that it gets in some crazy, NVIDIA puts and all of a sudden you're out of money, that's a real thing. So again, personal, like some kind of real human outcome, I think is a big deal. All right, so we talked earlier, like what are the stuff we don't want to do anymore? And that's a big long list. I'm not going to read them all, mostly because I don't have eyes in the back of my head. But you can see like there's a lot of things that like, it's not always, this isn't all just AI, but whether it's IDEs or it's just libraries, all this kind of stuff. There's stuff that we used to do all the time that honestly at the time seemed like the right work to do, right? Like we had I probably, how many logins have you built, right? so many, and now are all these things where it's like there's a better way to do this now, and so I'd pray, I'd hope for us that we don't have to do those ridiculous things anymore. Like let's elevate to the really interesting stuff. And so I'm trying to think about the next 3 to 5 years as more and more of these AI tools and AI kind of assisted stuff comes in. There are these great opportunities to do the really interesting stuff. So let's not fight it. Let's let it take the nonsense stuff that we don't want to do too much of and run with that. So any of these really awesome ones, what would you? I know you had a bunch of these. What's your favorite on here that you don't want to do anymore, that you got rid of? FTP deployments. I think you put it up here. I've done the index final, v6, v7 final, dot, whatever. I've done those. And I put it under, actually, I got this idea as the doctor's office the other day. And said that by law, doctors have to record, have to enter every kind of detail of your visit. And I asked him how long he spends every day doing that. He goes, an hour and a half, 2 hours. That sounds terrible. That sounds like one of these things that should get gobbled up by some kind of system, right? The idea that, he could serve, I don't know, whatever it is, 4 more patients, whatever it is in that day. But instead we're doing ridiculous kind of manual stuff. Those are the opportunities for us. So if you think about reorienting yourself in a what's next mindset. So always thinking about, don't think about, will this thing kill my job? Will this make things harder? It's more, okay, this is the state of the art. This is what's happening right now. How can I figure out what's the next thing that I can do that adds this human value, right? And the interesting problems are making that weird left turn. I mean, apparently coming to today, no one knew that that's like this huge issue for self-driving cars, right? And you can't put a self-driving car out on the road unless it can handle really like every turn, right? Otherwise, what we'd see is 100 cars backed up at that intersection with no way to get out of it, right? And so these are the cool problems. What else did I put up there? Is there a surgery robot you'd let go solo? I mean, not today, but 10 years ago, there wasn't a self-driving car, right? So these are interesting problems. We talked about one, sorry. So in my mind, there is a time when AI does all the stuff we're doing today, right? And the question is, how much of it will we be able to kick off by thinking about what's next? Now I'm looking at my time, and the thing I had up next was we came up with like X number of things you can do to kind of stay more literate, and I put a QR code up there to a blog in process. We've got them all up there, so I'll continue that next day or so and finish it up. So I don't know if we want to. I could jump through these. I'm just going to give an overview of these because I think they're interesting, and then we can kind of pause for questions and do some of that. All right. So first, no copy pasta. Consider that against the rules. I only say it because I've done it many times, and every time I do it, I should probably do better than that. So try to understand it, right? I know one of the things I've heard, so Josh is our CTO here. By the way, welcome the Caxi folks up in front. Got a great career for you tonight. How many times, just read the documentation, please. It's in there. A book that Hannah brought to the company, which is a great book, I should put it up here. Everything is figure-outable, especially in code. It's in there. It's right there. Just read the code, right? It's not, you can do it. You can do it. Do it on your own first, and this is a good one, and then go to Google. This is something we discovered. It's not against the rules to just copy the whole thing and put it in Google. You'd be surprised. Don't just copy a little piece or don't try to interpret, just copy the whole thing in, and you'd be surprised what answers you get back. Like, we find that not many people do that. It's such a dumb, easy way to get to the bottom of your errors. Just because it works doesn't mean it's good code. Should be obvious, but I figured I'd say it out loud. Don't fear the command line. If everything's in a GUI, then you're not totally sure how it all works. You don't have to do everything in there, but don't be afraid of it. That's where some of the value is going to be. This is a huge one. Learn to read others' code, because you'll learn something. You'll learn about new patterns. And I think also crucially, you'll learn how other people are thinking and solving problems. This is, if you've been in your own head for years, and especially if you're going to be on a software team, you're going to have to review other code. You're going to have to interact with other people. Your way isn't the only way, and gasp, it might not be the best way. That you could probably learn something, especially from people who have been doing it for a while. This is a fun one to do. Whose aunt has ever asked them at the party or the family event what you do? And 10 minutes later, they're like, I still don't know what you guys do. If you try to pull yourself out a couple layers to say, like, really explain, like, what it is that this does. And for yourself, especially getting real at the functional level, if you can step through what it's supposed to be doing, you'll probably find the thing that was stopping you or the issue was. All right. Try it on your own first, then AI rule. Don't be afraid to ask questions. One of the biggest problems we have with new people at the company is that they start and they're given something to do, and then a lot of time goes by and they don't ask questions, and more time goes by and they don't ask questions, and then we find out it's because, I didn't want you to think I didn't know. Well, we knew that. We knew you didn't know. That's okay. And so, you should aspire to work for a company, but that's not our problem. Don't worry about that. We want you to ask so we know where you're at. We can meet you there, give you the answer, and you can move on and keep learning, right? The other one is work on things that are a little bit of a stretch. It's like like working out. Like if you always do a 5-pound weight, you're always going to do a 5-pound weight. So try things that stretch you a little bit. Again, don't. Our culture's like this. I think many, hopefully most are like this. Go somewhere that's not a problem to be wrong and learn and grow. That's actually, that's the only way to keep this profession going. And then I think the biggest one for me is when you're on your team doing something, try to understand why, even ask why we're doing this, because it'll give you the context you need to build the right thing. Because if we're thinking about your real value is judgment and architecture, like why we're doing this, you'll be able to bring something to that, even that little bit of code, that maybe, as I was thinking about this, we're trying to, we talked about our goals the other day for maybe even this sprint or this, this product. This seems a little, I don't get it, or this seems against that, or I feel like I see a better way. I feel like most companies would encourage that. We would, because you want to build the best thing. Don't just take it for granted, and that's where your judgment comes in, because if you just did what was asked, that's kind of what, what code does. All right. Parting thought. Ever know what a buggy whip is? Ever heard this example 1,000 times? So before they invented cars, there were horses and there were horse-drawn carriages. And so the fancy thing you could buy was a buggy whip to give your horse a little prodding. And I think Henry Ford kind of famously said, if I asked people what they want, they would have said they wanted a faster horse. And so he built the car. So for some things, they go away completely. I don't know, buggywhip.com is taken, but my guess is you can't go get one today. But some things are like Airbnb. I don't know if you remember when Airbnb came out. It's like, oh, well, hotels are dead, right? But then suddenly people realize, well, I do. Who was it? Justine said, I do like the room service. I like having the fresh towels. I don't want to have to clean my sheets. And what is that flashing light in the smoke detector? It's hotel stay. There's a place for Airbnb. There's so think about, there's some things that are going to go away, and some things that become this new kind of hybrid thing. And don't be scared that there's the end of the line for software development. So hopefully ending on that totally weird story was good. But I'd like to introduce you to Matt up here, who's a great person to reach out to if you're interested in opportunities with us or just questions, asking, whatever. We really went all out on the QR codes tonight, so I hope you enjoy those. I'll leave that up so we can do a little Q&A, but really, thanks for having me. I went a little long. Hope that's all right. But really a pleasure to be here and talk to you all.